I probably have the most awesome job in what I would call the service CX and sales industry.
Customer experience wisdom, a dash of travel talk. We've been cleared for takeoff.
The best meals are served outside and require a passport.
As the son of a physician, I recall the American Medical Association, or AMA, playing a very influential part in my dad's practice. While I was too young to know the details, I vividly recall his office wall filled with editions of JAMA, the Journal of American Medical Association, and probably a few that were earmarked on his desk that he was actively reading. What I didn't realize then, and only recently understood, is AMA's focus on customer experience. That realization appeared when I had the opportunity to meet today's guest, Gloria Gupta, Director, AMA Service, Sales, and Customer Experience Transformation. With a focus on creating seamless customer experiences, Gloria's work spans customer listening, CX metrics, and enterprise-wide collaboration. She cares deeply about driving improvements that deliver real impact. Y'all know that's one of my favorite phrases, real impact. Today isn't just a conversation for me, it's personal. While I'm not in the medical space today, it was foundational in what I saw growing up. It influences my approach to the customer today. The medical world is one of the few areas that touch every single human. So I'd say we've got something to learn today for sure. Gloria, welcome to CX Passport.
Oh, thanks, Rick. It's great. It's just great to finally get together. I'm happy to talk to you today, and I just love your show, and I can't wait to dig in.
Oh, me either, and thank you for the kind words. What a great way to get started. Now I'm all glowing and blushing. Well, let's start just at the high level, because this is not necessarily a world that a lot of folks know outside of this conversation, this context, this industry. Who is the AMA customer?
Yeah, that's a very good question because it's something that we struggle with, and having public awareness about what who the AMA is after almost 200 years in existence and what
Mm-hmm.
we do is so very important. And it starts with the customer, right? And the primary customer of the AMA is our physicians that we serve, but we also serve the general community that
Mm-hmm.
supports them in healthcare. Also, I just want to say thank you for sharing your heartfelt story about your dad. You know, I looked him up. We have a very extensive database,
Oh, no
and
way.
we
This is
do.
new.
And Dr. Richard Allen Denton
Aw.
was an outstanding member and someone who was certainly a patient champion. And
Aw.
so, like all of our physicians, he was in the business of saving lives. So, if you can imagine that the AMA's customer is a physician in the community that supports physicians, but understand that their customer is the patient. And
Mm-hmm.
so we're trying to make it easier for physicians to serve their patient and make an impact not only on the nation, but the world.
Boy, you talk about helping the physician, make it easier for the physician. This is a world where the physician is dealing with a lot of complexity. I want to get there, but first let me acknowledge I'm not expecting the guest to make me cry. So as I'm sitting here choking back tears, thank you for those kind, sweet words about my dad.
Well,
And it certainly warms my heart. Well, beyond just warming hearts, though, right? There are a lot of reasons to do customer experience. And I know that sounds so generic, to do customer experience, but a lot of companies are just simply walking away from the focus on customer experience, even those that claim to be, air quotes here, customer oriented. So
right.
tell me why. Why have y'all decided that customer experience matters to the AMA?
Well, first of all, back to the AMA, we promulgate scientific content that we distribute across the globe. And physicians need that information. They need scientifically based, credible information, non biased information in order to serve their customers who are their patients.
Mm-hmm.
And so that value is translated into JAMA. You mentioned it, our journals. We have credentialing services that enable hospitals to determine when a physician should have admitting rights or treatment rights within the scope of an institution. And then we have so much data that we distribute that contributes to what we call medical coding and procedural coding.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a big business that generates about $450 million, and that revenue is sunk back into supporting medical education, the founding purpose of why we came together as an organization, supporting physicians in their work, removing obstacles so that they can do a great job, and also advancing innovations that
Hmm.
have physicians setting the table, not at the table, so that physicians have a big responsibility for contributing to innovations that they need to be able
Hmm.
to provide outstanding care.
Boy, think about that. Like you just described sort of this picture of the ideal customer experience, and I'm going to very kind of grossly call this,
Oh, right.
company relationship, right? But customer and company of, hey, the company designs something for the benefit of the customer. The customer's expressing those needs, and that is communicated back in. That doesn't happen just accidentally. It doesn't just happen out of the blue. How is it that the AMA has really created this ecosystem that allows its customer, the physician, to be such a participating partner in the creation of those innovations?
Oh, that's spot on because any customer experience or even good service outcome requires explicit strategy and infrastructure, right? We know that. And it all is rooted back to three things: the brand. What is the brand and what is our brand promise, which is in our case to be the physician's most powerful ally in patient care? Business. What is the business growth need so that you can sustain your activities, so you can
Hmm.
continue to be that ally? And last but certainly not least is the customer need. And all three of those things are evolving at warp speed. So you and I have had previous discussions about how the ecosystem, the healthcare ecosystem, is speeding up. And so for customer experience and service, we've got to have a really very close finger on the pulse, if you will,
Hmm.
make sure that those three things are aligned well and
Right.
that we're really embodying that when we deliver either service or we work throughout the organization to improve customer experience.
Hey there, CX Passport travelers. I want to let you know about CX Passport Live. CX Passport Live helps brands amplify their event's impact with the power of live, in person podcasting. Brands partner with CX Passport Live at their on site event to help excite attendees, reward high value customers, and convert potential customers. Bring a new level of energy and excitement to your event and amplify your brand's impact with CX Passport Live. Learn more at cxpassportlive.com. Now, back to the show. Absolutely, and certainly I appreciate the finger on the pulse. If there's a more appropriate time to use that phrase, this is it for sure. Gloria, I was talking about my dad, and you said such kind words earlier. He had started his ENT, ear, nose, and throat practice back in the late 1970s, and he continued that practice until he passed away in 2003. And especially in that last decade of service, I saw as an outsider this massive evolution of how medical care was delivered, technology advancements, business practice evolution, the relationship between the doctor, facility, patient, insurance. You've been at AMA for 30 years. So you've seen similar huge evolutions in your own medical space. What about today's medical world would really surprise Gloria 30 years ago?
Well, I'd be gobsmacked, and I think that's a very good term for
Uh-huh.
well known by our British friends, but,
Yes.
it has been, I would say if healthcare was evolving in 1970 at warp speed, we're way past that. We're in sort of the whole new world theme song from Walt Disney Productions because in the last decade, we saw advances in healthcare since the beginning of the AMA, which is 200 years ago. Imagine the AMA was founded the same year that we recognized this new wonder drug called aspirin, right? And that we
Oh
had
my
finally a
gosh.
test for syphilis. We had no cure for syphilis, but we had a test so we could
Okay.
identify carriers. Those were the two big founding scientific advances when the AMA was started. And then
Wow.
in the 70s, we had much different kinds of antibiotics that were available. Think about
Mhm.
that. In the beginning of our designer antibiotics and all of that kind of thing, and maybe early mammograms for diet, detection. But there has been no advance, and probably somebody will say this again in another decade because it's just
Yeah.
running quickly. Um, the biggest advent was in the last decade, and probably two major factors. One, because of state and government regulations, the use of electronic health records was the
Hmm.
biggest advent. And we really wanted to push that because we knew that if we could share data across systems and institution and caregivers, we could really improve the health of America.
Hmm.
But then what happened? COVID hit. And
Mm.
just out of necessity, that was the thing that knocked the ball over the net. It wasn't just an option anymore. We had to share that
Yeah.
information to save lives. We had people in temporary health facilities, on cots, and we had
Right.
physicians who were literally couldn't get to work, who were working with their patients online. And then also that also brought the advent of telehealth. And telehealth was something new, and payers didn't really, you know, believe in it, and institutions weren't sure about the
Hmm.
liability. Well, COVID necessitated that. So
Right.
those two big things, electronic health records, and then COVID driving the inculcation of telehealth. We have now payers who are accepting telehealth as a primary care event,
Hmm.
and we're all relying on it. It's very likely that 1 in 5 of your appointments this year will be, or throughout the year, throughout 2 years, whatever your average, time to see a physician will be via telehealth. So
Hmm.
those are the things that really are knocking things over the net, I think, for us in this decade. And of course, we all know AI is here, right?
Yeah.
And so what we will be talking about next decade is how we thought telehealth and electronic healthcare records and data sharing, um, were the big advent. But in a decade, we'll talk about how AI has completely changed not only healthcare institutions,
Yeah.
pharma,
Hmm.
payers, everyone that's in the healthcare ecosystem.
And those of us that are kind of on the outside have already started to see or hear stories about that, like a detection of a scan that was picked up by technology that a human didn't pick up, and some of those sort of advents. What made me smile about you describing, we'll be talking about AI like we're talking about telehealth and talking about electronic records a decade from now, then it makes me laugh about, okay, so then what's going to be the next thing after AI where we're like, yeah, AI, whatever, it was in the past. And
Mhm.
so the idea of it's so novel, and then it will be something so new with all these advancements coming up and all the technology changes. There's some fundamental elements of this. We talked about customer experience at the beginning, and we know that you lead the service and transformation work at AMA. Well, that had to start from somewhere. What was it like just starting that up? I can only imagine the breadth of stakeholders in getting not only this started, but then this implemented and enacting real impactful change. How did you get everyone to buy in and implement the pace of initiatives today?
Let me just kind of step back a moment and say, I probably have the most awesome job in what I would call the service CX and sales industry, because it's highly unusual to see one person responsible for a unified service team, a enterprise-wide CX team, and have remit for contributing to that 450 million dollar revenue base.
Mhm.
It's awesome because I w- only have to argue with myself. I wake up at night and I think about balancing resources and people and talent, but
Mhm.
I have the authority and the autonomy to make those decisions as long as we achieve our measurable outcomes.
Right.
So let's start with service. I initially was asked to unify service at the AMA, and we worked with a consulting firm, and we created a unification plan where we took all the pockets of service and consolidated that into one unit. And you can imagine the amount of effort required to plan and then develop the credibility that entrusted units like JAMA, units
Hmm.
like our CPT coding area, units like our credentialing to say, give me responsibility for your sales and service, and we will meet your goals together. So that was the Herculean lift for developing relationships and having people understand that we had the credibility to co-create goals together and
Hmm.
then that we would deliver on those outcomes. And when we missed, we would work with them to understand why, and as a team, shore that up. Because there's no magic wand in transformation. Some things you hit and some things you miss. But as
Hmm.
long as you continue to focus on your outcomes, you can always achieve them.
Yeah.
And
The-
so we did that through collaboration. Okay, so fast forward about that program has gone well. It's an omnichannel contact center serving 98% of all service at the AMA.
nice.
The agents are frontline CX leaders.
Hmm.
They're collecting voice of the customer data, which is very usable, actionable. And then they're also avoiding downstream issues. They're thinking about the customer's need and then making sure that we engage them in value, but thinking down the road about what's necessary so that they don't hit an obstacle moving forward. For
Hmm.
example, when we know that a resident is transferring from residency to practice, we can anticipate that they're planning licensure needs and that we can anticipate that they'll be having address changes and maybe need our value, some of the resources that we offer to members. So being that champion up front is incredibly helpful, and it really allows us to curtail the kind of nitty gritty small friction. Well, that leaves us with the big friction.
Right.
And the problem with that is that service agents only had the authority to fix certain things. So we started getting big repeat problems
Hmm.
like sign in, authentication. Most of our products have been transferred to electronic. We publish very few books, so most everything is online.
Hmm.
20 online platforms that we offer, thousands and thousands of pages deep within our website. So the key there, the keys to the castle is via authentication, password, and username. Well, that process was broken. And
Hmm.
so we when we created this idea for CX, people said, what would you attack? What would you do? How would you work across the organization? I said, I know we have the problem. Know we have the problem to solve, but we don't have yet the infrastructure to figure out how to do it.
Hmm.
Because if it would have been so easy, any one of these stakeholders would have solved this.
Right.
We created a CX team. We studied though. We took about 9 months we talked to everyone in the industry, read everything we can, went to school, became certified in CX, and scoured the best practices that we thought you would build a program on.
Hmm.
And then we went across the organization selling the idea, went back and tapped those relationships that we had already founded. The biggest problem there wasn't my getting people on board. It was saying, oh, you're going to do a new kind of service. And the
Uh,
explaining or rebranding myself as a CX leader in addition to service and how
yeah.
those correlated, but were very, very different. One was solving immediate needs, and the other one was looking farther ahead and making
Yeah.
sure that we could solve those root problems or even avert them through better design. So, same stakeholders
Yeah.
with a few more players, and then a big plan that took us almost 10 years to roll out.
Wow. Then that takes some, gosh, I could spend some time asking you about the 10-year aspect of it because, most companies have the attention span of a fruit fly. And so the thought of something that actually took 10 years from idea to implementation and sticking with it is something that is unique. Something else, though, that's unique that as I'm listening to your story, you're describing a lot of the things that we say should be in customer experience. Frontline agents are empowered. Frontline agents are the source of information that help not only fix the immediate quick friction, but then provide the input to do the big friction. Gloria, what do you think is unique about AMA that y'all were able to solve many of the things that a lot of companies still are either just paying lip service to or haven't even pretended to tackle, that many of us in the CX space think are the foundational elements of customer experience.
Well, I think the first thing was, as you recognize, to try to create a plan that was evergreen, to try
Mm,
to create a strategy that you could grow into. And as you achieve small, measurable wins, those small, measurable wins would bubble up to trust and credibility. And
mhm,
as we bubbled that up, we started to develop our capabilities and our innovations and improve our voice of the customer analytics. So this all happened, it didn't just happen like a big hammer came
yeah,
down. We continued to grow in this transformation. Um, the very first thing that we did was to go across the organization and create a strategy that was based on consensus. And
mhm,
so the very first thing was what is to agree with all of the stakeholders, 13 different product lines, 400 different people now involved in CX directly. And that's like that's 1 in 4 AMA employees. Um, and to get to say, what is it that we are doing? And we
mhm,
created together a very simple mission, and it is to just identify and remove customer friction so that AMA members and others can access our value seamlessly when they need it, how they need it, and as much as they need or little. So it just identify and remove customer friction. And then our internal mission was therefore, let's make it easy for AMA employees to identify and remove customer friction. So as we orchestrate change, we have two customers. We have an external customer, which is
right.
going to be able to reap the benefit of our activities, but also internal customers who we want ultimately to anoint with the knowledge and the skills and the capabilities to do this themselves so that we can orchestrate this change instead of driving it.
Gloria, I love what I'm hearing there. We're going to have to get back into that a little bit, but we need to take a little break here. A little change of pace. Join me here in the First Class Lounge. We'll move quickly here and hopefully have a little bit of fun. What is a dream travel location from your past?
Oh my gosh. So, first of all, you need to know I love to travel, but I hate to plan the trips. My husband loves to plan the trips, and so he is dragging me all over the world. We've been probably around the world a couple of times. So, my favorite place is usually the last place I visited.
Oh, okay.
So, although we've been to Paris many, many times, I celebrated my recent birthday there with my
Oh,
husband, and I would say it has never looked more beautiful. So it would be Paris. However, in April, we're going to Morocco, sleeping under the
nice.
stars in a Bedouin
Oh,
tent. And so I think probably if you asked me in April, it'll
she
probably
then.
be Morocco somewhere.
I love that idea. Well, what if, okay, so Morocco's coming up. Maybe we won't count that one. What is a dream travel location you've not been to yet?
Well, we were supposed to go to New Zealand in January, and I got COVID.
Oh,
So I would say we had planned both island trip, North and South Island in New Zealand. So that is going to be a coveted trip since it was unrequited
that's true.
destination.
Even more so. You were already looking forward to it, but now, and that will
Yeah,
be a lot of fun when you
exactly.
finally do get down there for sure. What is a
Highly
favorite?
highly recommend travel insurance, people. You
Oh,
know,
preach. I'm not here. CX Passport is not sponsored by them, but I will tell you as a personal user and beneficiary of that, I will agree with that statement.
yeah.
Gloria, what is a favorite thing of yours to eat?
Oh, my favorite. First of all, I'm an avid gardener.
Okay.
And so, I grow some wonderful things, but my favorite is tomatoes. And my husband bakes bread. So my
Oh,
favorite thing is one of his many versions of sourdough bread and a homegrown tomato with salt and pepper on it.
oh, yum. Oh my gosh, that sounds fantastic.
Maybe a
Oh,
little olive oil if you're
Yeah, I
feeling
like this.
groovy.
Mix it up a little bit. Get a little flavors on there. Very nice. Well, there is the other direction. What is something you were forced to eat growing up, but you hated as a kid?
Well, first of all, I love to eat. Eating is a fun thing. I love to eat and walk and travel, and work. I love work. So hard to pull me away from work. Um, but anyway, the thing that I didn't like to eat, I guess it would be peas. And
Okay.
again, my mom was an avid gardener and she would grow these peas, these sugar snap peas, and
Hmm.
we all had to eat them. And so I think I became a pretty good storyteller because of my aversion to peas. I would get everybody's attention, like, on the story, and meanwhile, I was carefully hiding, rolling my peas under my spoon, under my plate, in my pockets, or across the floor. I love them now, but, there've been a
That's
lot of peas that have gone the wayside while I was storytelling at the dining room
that is
table.
awesome. I love that the food created your storytelling ability. That is fantastic. Gloria, it is time for us to leave the first class lounge. What is one travel item, not including your phone, not including your passport, that you will not leave home without?
Oh, it's 2. It's
No,
always
that's
a
fine.
baseball cap because my scalp gets sunburned, and, second thing is a extra pair of earrings because you'll rarely find me without a pair of earrings on.
Gloria, that's fantastic. And now I do not have pierced ears, so no earrings for me. But I am with you on the ball cap as someone who is the recent, I'll use this word, beneficiary of a skin cancer screening that found something on the top of my head. Yes,
Oh.
it is important. Everyone, go get your screening and wear your sunscreen and wear your hats out there. Gloria, I want to get back to what we were talking about before we entered the first class lounge. This idea of creating this entity. Well, now what? Where
Right.
does it stand now? What does it look like today?
Well, so I started talking about that transformation and we learned, we grew, we socialized, we
Yeah.
tested, added innovation. And now we're in a position where we can step back. We have 900 improvements, not all small, some very
Good
large,
gravy.
significant projects and so, it's not about small things bubbling up anymore. It's figuring out how to do what is worth doing, not
Hmm.
just doable. And so, I don't know if I mentioned, but our ultimate goal in this transformation is to make CX a measurable attribute of AMA's brand and culture. So
Okay.
we're looking at that. We've got 400 people involved. We have two major annual events at the AMA that are standing room only. Um, in fact, our CEO came to me and asked how can he make his town halls as engaging as
Nice.
our CX meeting. So that's the gold standard there.
Did you tell
Um,
him have peas as a kid and learn your
yeah,
storytelling
yeah,
skills?
exactly. Yeah. No, but it was a great way to get his attention
That's awesome.
through CX, that's for sure. Great
Yeah.
new CEO, Dr. John White. We're in such great hands there.
Nice.
So yes, so this year we're stepping back. We have won some awards. We've gotten some external recognition that we've been able to fan back to the AMA and encourage people to keep doing what they're doing and see themselves as advocates for change.
Hmm.
So we're stepping back and we're uh, really looking at our transformation along the lines of what people do when they look at long-term change. There's this theory, systems theory about entropy, where it's the natural pull for anything that's organized to become eventually disorganized and for
Hmm.
things that you've accomplished to kind of unwind on their own. And how do we know that's not happening? So
Right.
we've decided to sort of split our efforts between looking back and making sure that all of the improvements are well cared for. We call that aftercare. And also take a look forward and make sure that we're really identifying those things that will deliver, that are doable, but worth doing. Really, that will
Yeah.
deliver not only brand, business, and customer impact, making sure that those three things are so well aligned. So We're using AI to go back through all of our 900 improvements, looking at the KPIs of where they were based and what we accomplished, identifying what can we retire. Those things were a break fix. We fixed it. It's not broken anymore. We can move on. Those things that are delivering but probably deserve monitoring. And then those things that were delivering but somehow are unwinding.
Mm-hmm.
We can reprioritize those in a way that makes sense and keep people involved in this method of caring for the work that you're doing long after you've done it.
Yeah. Yeah. Because what you're describing is not just work for now, but work for the future in the near term. Also, some things that are some very long term future elements of this. So the legacy of what is being created now is going to have impact going forward in the
Right.
future. Gloria, talk to me about even beyond the transformation. Like, go macro with me here. We talked a little AI, talked a little transformation. What is next from an AMA customer experience perspective, or even physician experience, or ultimately, what's the patient experience going to look like?
Wow, that's like crystal ballish, but I do know one thing when we go back and we said, that COVID and EHRs drove significant change in the last decade. And now we're looking at AI in this decade, and we don't know really what that is. It's like the old www dot
Yeah.
advent. We thought it was big, but it was maybe not big in the way it envisioned it. It kind of metamorphosized and created its own drumbeat, if you will. I know that AI in the next decade or two, we won't consider AI to be AI. It will be part of our capabilities, right? It will be a tool. It'll be the same thing that our air and water of what we do.
Yeah.
I guess it's fair to say I don't know what impact that will have on public policy because public policy in healthcare is so critical. I don't know what impact that will have on patient health, whether it will be confusing, whether it will be advantageous.
Right.
There's a lot more that I don't know, but I do know that we will continue to be customer focused. I know we will continue to be business focused because without meeting our business goals, there are no resources, there are
Right.
no products.
Right.
And last but not least, customers are evolving significantly, not just demographics, but their needs and their desires and their involvement. So those are the factors that will be involved in that change. I'm just not sure, honestly, what that change will be. But I do know the most important thing is that we continue to focus on real data, real outcomes you mentioned at
Yes.
the beginning, that we need to focus and understand that we're a resource of the AMA and that we have to fall within that level of productivity. And then the third thing is collaboration doesn't just happen. It's not just about across the organization. It's not just about talking with each other nicely or active listening. It's about really creating a safe space for people to bring their talent against a problem and forget about the politics or the silos or the ownership outside or even remorse about things breaking down and really get to work in a way that's different that will kind of position us for the future.
That's where we need to end. Because what I love about what you said there, Gloria, is I don't know what the future might hold, but I know that these fundamental truths are going to help us create the best element, the best reaction to, the best driving of what that future will be. All of it with ultimately that customer mindset that you bring to it. Gloria, it has been a great conversation for
thank
me
you. It was
today.
fun.
I've really learned. I've also had a few tears that kind of were behind the eyelids there. I got that. Gloria, folks wanted to get to know a little bit more about you, your approach to customer experience, the AMA in general. What's the best way for them to learn more?
Oh, they can contact me via LinkedIn. I'm very active via LinkedIn. That's probably the easiest way for them. And, they can always, everyone knows me at the AMA. They can call any number and get to me. But the best way is LinkedIn. And I will I'm very responsive.
I love that. I love the idea of just somebody calling up and say, hey, I want to talk to Gloria, and boom, they know immediately who we're talking about.
Well, Rick, I've been at the for a long time. And so before I did these roles, I was doing internal reengineering.
Awesome.
So, I mean, there's a lot of relationships and
Yeah.
knowledge that I have about the AMA.
Well, Gloria, the fact that everyone knows you there, I can tell after this episode, I understand why, because you're just such a wealth of great information, great stories, great insights. And so, yeah, if I were there, I'd want to make sure I knew Gloria as well. Gloria, it was fantastic today. Thank you for being on CX Passport.
Oh, you're very welcome. Let's do it again sometime, Rick, and I'll interview you.